And for more on the ongoing crisis in Venezuela, we're turning now to investigative journalist Greg Palast. Greg, good of you to be with us today. I haven't seen you in a while. First, I understand.
Glad to be with you.
First, I understand that you have a unique perspective on the Americans' link in Venezuela involving the Koch brothers. What can you tell us?
Well, a couple things. And by the way, I was the reporter for The Guardian and BBC on the ground in Venezuela for many years. And one thing, and covering the oil industry. Look, the Koch brothers are the real beneficiaries of this attempt to overthrow the government of Venezuela. Right now, most of Venezuela's oil goes to the U.S., and most of that oil goes specifically to the Koch Industries refineries on the Gulf Coast. Now, they are in the middle of oil fields in Texas, but the Kochs can't use Texas oil because it's not filthy enough, literally not heavy enough for their refinery. So they are captive customers of the Venezuelan government, the Chavista government. And the Chavista government knows this, so they've been cranking the Kochs. They've been charging them above market prices for Venezuelan oil because the Kochs have nowhere else to turn. But one thing that they can do is if they can't get a good price from the Venezuelan government, hey, you're the Koch brothers. You change the government. So that's what's going on here. It's all about the oil.
Now that's what I was just going to get to next was, do you really believe that the Koch brothers are powerful enough to sway U.S. foreign policy, not only in Venezuela, but around the world, so much so that it appears to be this, attempted coup? It's really just revolving around big oil?
Well, oil is the prize. Even John Bolton, who is, the national security chief, the old neocon retread that Trump has put into office in charge of national security, our foreign policy. And John Bolton has literally said on Fox News, we're talking to U.S. oil companies. Exxon left Venezuela in a huff, and they want their oil fields back. And so, therefore, we have John Bolton literally saying up front, we're talking to U.S. oil companies about taking the Venezuelan oil assets. And they say, oh, our stealing Venezuelan oil assets are, as good for the Venezuelan people. You're kidding me.
Wow. And talk to me a little bit about Juan Guaido. I mean, it seems as if this guy was kind of plucked out of relative obscurity to be the new face of Venezuela?
Obscurity is one word for it. Right-wing D.C. think tanks where he worked. He comes out of Washington, D.C. He's a creature of the Washington think tanks and George Washington University, not of Venezuela. He declared himself president when, dig this, the polls in Venezuela said 80% of the public had no idea who this guy was, okay? But he did declare himself president something like 1 hour after speaking to Donald Trump, who said, you declare yourself president and I'll recognize you as president. And it was immediately followed by the right-wing government of Britain, which, just so you know, last year asked the Maduro government to give them the oil fields which had been held by the French company Total and give those fields to British Petroleum. When Venezuela said, no, we're not giving you the fields to British Petroleum, we're keeping them for Venezuela, suddenly Maduro was a dictator and had to be replaced by this guy Guaido that Venezuelans didn't even know. The one thing that Trump knows about this guy, however, is that he is very, very white.
Now, I'm glad that you brought up President Trump because, as we know here stateside, he stumped on being anti-interventionist, focus on America first. Why is he suddenly so invested in removing Maduro? If he wants the oil fields, why not negotiate a deal with Maduro?
Because Maduro, despite what they say, is not corrupt. I talked to oil company officials, many of them, and they said quietly to me, the problem with Venezuela is unlike Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan and Great Britain and the Alaska companies, you can't bribe the Venezuelan government. They won't simply take some cash under the table into a Swiss bank account. You know, that Mobil Exxon was convicted of arranging a $160 million bribe to the nation of Kazakhstan, where there is not one single member of the opposition in Congress. We're not trying to overthrow that government because they took our bribes and we get their oil. The Venezuelan government will not take our cash bribes. The governors will not take our cash bribes and won't turn over the people's oil to U.S. oil companies. So Exxon is furious. British Petroleum is furious. And Donald Trump is not, you know, Trump's only the president. He's the glove puppet, that orange-stained, bloviating bigot glove puppet that you see on TV. He's the glove puppet, but whose fingers are in the gloves? I said the Koch brothers. I said Exxon. These are the guys who really control what's going on in this government. And while Donald Trump may be anti-interventionist, the people that control him say, we need that oil, buddy. Forget your policy.
Always about the money. We'll have to leave it right there. Greg Palast, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
You're very welcome.
Hey YouTube, thanks for checking out our channel. We hope you enjoyed the video. We have tons of content for you just like this. For more of RT America's one-of-a-kind news and analysis, be sure to subscribe and never stop questioning more.